This podcast is sponsored by and recorded at Crossings Pub and Eatery on Hyde Park.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you may be listening. Welcome back to another edition of the Vickers Crossing podcast. The Vickers Crossing is a virtual space where faith intersects with the public square. And my name is Rob Henderson. I'm the priest at Holy Trinity St. Stephen's Anglican Church in London.
London, Ontario, where Kevin George is also a priest at, and that's me. I sound like Donald Trump. Speaking in the third person. I'm Kevin George, and my church is St. Aidan's, which is in the northwest corner of London, and I'm happy to be back. We've got some others here, too.
That's right. We've got producer Ian back again. Hello, Ian.
I'm producer Ian in the Church of the Earth. Yeah.
He was going to start rapping. I felt the rap coming on, but it kind of went off the rails a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. And we're here with a very special guest who we're going to be introducing in just a minute. But I want to remind everybody where we're coming from, because as always, we gather one of our favorite public square places.
Absolutely.
Is right here at Crossings Pub and Eatery.
In the publican place.
Exactly. Which you'll find on Hyde Park Road in London, Ontario.
Yep.
Great place to be. My wife and I dropped by here the other night for
dinner.
They had half-price apps.
Oh.
So you know we're in half-price
Like
apps
for the,
around. You know
for
where
the telephone,
Reverend
like
Robbie
for the,
is.
were these iPhone or Google apps?
No. Food, Kevin.
Food. Oh,
food.
okay, yeah.
Food. So
Was
we
it
came
good?
in the other night, had a lovely night, and
Nice.
wonderful place to go. So
What are you
drop by
drinking?
and see at Crossings today. Today I'm drinking a Kronenberg, a 1664.
Wow, that's old,
Kronenberg.
man.
I know, it is old, but
Yeah.
it's aged well.
Nice.
What do you have going
I
on?
see on the side of my glass, you brought it up for me, so I can't be certain, but it tastes like an 8-track from Sons of Kent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
One of my favorites. Thank you, sir.
What do you got going on over there, Ian?
I got Dad's root beer.
Dad's father's root beer.
See? All right. Good. Well, Kevin, would you like to introduce our guest?
Zalah Zacariah is a friend of ours at St. Aidan's Church. Zalah is from Sudan, where he came from after being in a refugee camp in Ethiopia. He was sponsored by St. Aidan's and what was then Bishop Cronin Memorial Church. Since he's come to Canada, Zalah has been idle. He's done nothing but twiddle his thumbs and take it easy for a
Line
long
number
time.
one today on the show.
Yeah, Zalah was like, well, where can I collect the government check? No, see, Zalah's here to dispel all that.
Right.
Because Zalah actually, since he's been here, besides working full-time, obtained a Diploma of Liberal Arts from Fanshawe, bachelor degree in sociology from Western, a Bachelor of Arts specialization in sociology, and a minor in political science from Western. And now, just in case he's getting bored, he's gotten himself enrolled in a Master of Arts program in social justice and community engagement, which is at Wilfrid Laurier University, and he's going to begin that in September.
Wow.
When in his spare time,
Wow.
he
Yeah.
volunteers for the Diocesan Refugee Committee for the Diocese of Huron. Zalah, quite simply, is a rock star.
Wow.
Welcome to you, Zalah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevins, and thank you, Bob and Ian, for having me in your show. And I'm really very humbled to say that it's a privilege to be here in this country, and it is also it is important to mention that success is not happen by just simply working hard. It's success happened by supporting from your community and from the church. This is where I got tremendous, enormous amount of support. I'm really grateful for this, and thank you for.
Good.
having
No,
me.
well,
Hey,
we're
we're
grateful
glad to
that
have you
you're
here.
here. And
The only thing that discourages me is you're drinking water.
I
You've been in Canada long enough to know we have other things besides water.
definitely, I have a temptation to drink beer.
Well, as you know what they say, lead us not into temptation, just show us how to get there.
that's right. That's right. No, it's great to have you here, Zalah. We're going to get into your story a little bit and find out more in just a few minutes. But first, we have to do all the silly stuff we have to do.
we have some
right?
silly
We have
things.
some silly stuff
And
to
I
do.
can see here. there's a
So,
lot of silly stuff.
what's been going on at St. Aidan's?
Oh, boy.
What's not been going on?
What's not been going on? Well, just like you, Rob, I'm sure, we just came off a Holy Week, which
Yeah.
is an incredible time. Lots to do, but the richest time of the year, and just a really special time that we've been very happy for. We, like every Christian community, woke on Easter Sunday to the shocking news of the bombings in Sri Lanka. And so we've been busy this week actually organizing with the Muslim community here in town a vigil which by the time of this airing will have happened. But tonight at St. Aidan's, we've got people coming from across the city, multi-faiths, bishops from various churches, Muslim, our imams, rabbis. Everybody is coming, and we're looking forward to standing together against hatred and violence. So it's been a busy week.
It has been, yeah. Lots going on, and we're looking forward to being there tonight as well, and
Wonderful.
And taking part in that, and us too in our community coming up for air after a busy Holy Week, which is always, a time of great joy and hope, but also can be a little tiring after you've been going at it for every day for that week. So, but it's always a nice renewal for us, and we're looking forward to see where God will be leading us over the next months and years ahead.
I'd like to say in an unrelated note that Rob and I are in a hockey pool, which Ian is now joining for round 2.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
good for you.
surprise.
All right.
And so,
I need your money.
But Rob has successfully made it to second place in the
won
pool.
second place.
He won second place, which
That's
is
right.
better than me, who got third place. And out of the 10 of us, which means you actually walked away with cash.
I did.
Which is you doubled your investment. Which
You have
is
that
good.
on you now?
I do actually. But
'Cause,
let's
apparently I
got to
pay for these drinks when we're done. So we'll take
fix that
care of
up.
that. Good. Well, we want to take a minute and enter into one of our favorite sections here on the Vickers Crossing, which is another edition. I let the music come in here. There we
like
go.
there's
That's
music
usually a
coming,
cue
right?
that,
There's music
yeah,
coming,
there it
right?
is. You hear it? Yeah. And the guy that wrote that music is on the other end of a question today. It's time for another edition of Ask Ian Anything.
Wow. Well, this is the time. Are you ready for this?
So ready.
One of our most faithful listeners is our beekeeper at St. Aidan's Church. We keep bees, and our beekeeper is named Peter Anderson. And Peter listens to all our podcasts while he's working and on the road a lot because he does a lot of travel for his work. He listens to the podcast. And he's been quite impressed with young producer Ian, and he has this question for you, sir. You have been listening to many diverse experiences of faith through the process of recording these podcasts.
Yes.
Has it made any difference to the approach, feelings that you have towards the church or your own beliefs?
Wow.
He wasn't ready.
Yeah, I totally wasn't. I don't know. It's so.
Do
it's
it in a rap. Answer in a rap.
Just wrap it.
No, it's interesting to hear how open a lot of people can be towards sort of faith and things like that. Like, I don't consider myself to be religious, although I do, I don't know, hang around with some priests. So sort of my attitude towards it is that I guess gathering knowledge is the most human thing to do, and gathering knowledge towards faith and everything in general is well, I guess fun in this format, but also knowledging.
Yeah.
Learning, that's the word.
Well, that's
Learning
good.
a lot.
Good. I think that's a new word.
Yeah.
We just copyrighted that, knowledging.
I'm learning a lot.
That's a good thing. Ian. And, I remember going when I started seminary, coming in thinking I knew a lot, learning a heck of a lot,
Yeah.
which really took a toll on my quote-unquote faith. 'Cause
Yes.
sometimes you hear things,
Yeah.
you think you know things, and then it kind of gets torn apart a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
and you got to reassess.
You think you
But
know
through
something?
that, yeah, exactly.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. but through that, I've become stronger in it, and it's through that knowledge and understanding, and you feel more.
I think that it's true to say too, and I know from some of our previous guests that I've spoken to, but certainly for Rob and I, you may have done lots of learning here, Ian, producer Ian, but we've done lots of learning from you too.
Yeah, and
It's
speaking
been really
of
cool of hearing you teach us and give us your unbridled wisdom.
Sure. Well, speaking of learning,
Yeah.
we have a new segment on this podcast.
I can't wait to hear what the music is
This
going to be.
gonna be good.
There's got to be music,
So-
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There'll be music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting on that now.
Yeah.
So in this new segment, we are going to quiz these two priests, Robin and Kevin.
Speaking of not knowing anything.
What
Rob.
is this segment called, producer?
We're
Ian?
calling it. What are we calling it? The most trivial priest.
Oh,
So it's a contest between Rob and Kevin.
All right,
Now,
brother.
two very trivial
Kevin,
people.
Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it.
So our esteemed guest will choose a category between geography, entertainment, history, arts and literature, science and nature, or sports and leisure.
For each of us, he's going to pick one for each.
One for both of you.
One for each.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty fun. Let's,
So what should Rob get?
Rob,
Do you want a list of the categories?
I do
Zalah?
have it here.
Oh, you
has
have
it.
it all?
I have
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Okay, you
yes.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I have it here.
Mhm.
I will pick entertainment for Rob.
Yes.
Giving him entertainment. He loves
Yes.
So what
I
am
don't
I
know
getting?
anything about
So
it.
what am I
I am
getting?
not entertaining, nor do I know
So what am I
anything
getting?
about
If he gets
Um,
entertainment, what am I getting?
Just hold on a second. You're getting art and literature.
There you go.
Ooh,
There you go.
nice.
Worst. Okay, well, let's
Okay.
go to Rob first.
Okay, entertainment, bring it.
Okay,
Entertainment.
Let's
Bring it in.
see how we do here. So
Okay,
just
let's-
a word of clarification. This is from the 40th anniversary. Believe it or not, Trivial Pursuit came out 40 years ago,
Really?
1979, and this is the 40th anniversary edition. And these questions are straight from, and they're questions that run from 1979 forward. And Ian has been given a card already, which we haven't looked at. So producer Ian is now going to share the question for Rob, which is, what do you get? Entertainment.
Entertainment, which I believe is pink.
Yes, it is pink.
Awesome. So, Rob, what groundbreaking sitcom featuring hyper-opinionated, hilariously cringeworthy Archie Bunker aired its last episode after 9 seasons?
Come on.
Ian, you dingbat, you.
Meathead.
Do I give my answer right away? Or do I
No,
gotta
no,
wait?
you got to hold
I
your
gotta hold my
your
answer.
answer.
Okay, I'm gonna hold
Okay,
my
let's
answer.
let's hear what my
Hold your
question
answer.
is.
Let me
No,
just
no,
get my
not yet.
phone so
All
I
right.
can Google it.
Don't
no,
Google.
no Googling. That's illegal.
All right, what have I
Now,
got, Ian?
Arts and literature, I believe.
Yes.
What
Yes,
color
yes.
is that?
Well, it used to be brown, but I think it's purple now.
Purple now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
What title character in this year's dark Broadway play was known as, quote, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street?
Oh, now this is 1979 you're reading from
Yes.
that card, I think. The
Yes.
Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Yes.
Well, that's, much easier than Archie Bunker. I mean, come on. Who comes up with this stuff?
That's a softball
All right.
for me.
Let's see what Rob's answer is while I contemplate.
Ian, you meathead, you. My answer is All in the Family.
Oh,
That would be correct.
okay. Now, could I just have you read the question one more time? Because
Your-
that was my stalling.
Your question?
Yes.
Okay. So, what title character in this year's dark Broadway play was known as the Demon Barber of Fleet Street?
Edward Scissorhands.
Sweeney Todd.
Oh, Sweeney.
1 point to Rob.
1 point.
Oh,
Rob's
there we
already out
go.
to an early lead.
There we go. Okay, well, we'll see.
Not too bad.
We'll do this
Right.
for a while. I think we've got a
Right.
trivial priest cup that we're going to be
There'll be a cup.
presenting a little bit later. So, Zala, thank you
And
for that
let me
category.
say right
too.
now.
No problem.
Yeah.
Sorry if I picked that, really.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be
Because,
sorry. I'm quite happy.
sometimes
And
you
I
pick-
will say that while we're here, thank you, Ian, for the intro music into that beautiful segment, because I know you're going to create it after
Yep,
this.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, over to you, Rob.
Over to me. Hi there.
Over to you.
Where am I?
Hi, Rob.
I've lost myself. So, Zala, again, welcome. We're glad you're here. We've got quite a story that we want to share. Your story with our listeners. As Kevin mentioned, you're from Sudan originally, correct? And
Yes,
that's
yes.
where you were born. You came to Canada as a refugee.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe just take a few minutes. Can you share with our listeners a little more about your story? Maybe some things about what you went through in Sudan and what was it like when you got here to Canada? A little information about your story for us.
Yeah, no problem. It's the Sudan is in North Africa, as most of people geographically located in North Africa. It is used to be a big country, but it's not now. Now we have a south and north country, and I'm from western side. Then most of you are not probably familiar with. Some people familiar with West Sudan, which is Darfur.
Yeah,
We had
Darfur.
we're still where the genocide has happened to 2003. That it started genocide. And Sudanese governments had a militia. It's called Janjaweed. They attacked those areas.
Sorry, it was called again what?
Janjaweed is basically
Janjaweed.
basically militias, government militia.
Okay.
They carry out white massacre, and we had to flee the regions, and so I left my families, and everybody was just flee somewhere.
About how old were you when you left?
I was around 20, in my 20s,
Okay.
like around 20,
Yeah.
26, 20. I
And
was old. Yeah, it's
when
not-
you say you left your family behind, who did you leave behind?
I left really my mother's, and my father's was died
Eddie?
during that time, but So fortunately, I end up in Ethiopia, which is the eastern side of Africa, and I end up in refugee camp, where you get assistance from UNHCR, it's the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. It's they grant you refugee status, and then you will stay in the camps, and basically, you know, like anybody else who's who's staying in the camp. You get assistance from UNHCR, and then also there's an organization called WFP, the World Food Program.
Okay.
So you get really monthly, kind of assistance.
Right.
And it's really, at the beginning, refugee camp is really very challenging. It's very tough because it's a 1 kilometer square, and you don't have really much freedom to move.
How many people will be in that 1
Roughly
kilometer?
around 7,000 people.
7,000 people in a square kilometer.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a very small area.
We have no idea here.
Yeah.
It's a very small area, and there is not really much there. I mean, there's no any sort of protections. There's a lot of domestic abuses within the refugee communities happen. There's a lot of some kind of chaotic environment, but somehow I managed to leave that situation. But I was also actively engaged with the refugee community as representing refugee communities in UNHCR, in the camp, and also kind of, so in that kind of circumstances, you really want to be realistic, and you don't want to be more, thinking about that. Because if you're really thinking about that kind of situation every day, I mean, you go crazy, no?
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to be realistic, and then utilize whatever you have it, and think positively about it, and then hopeful, so that you can have, at least you can be stable in that circumstances.
Where do you find hope every day when you wake up? Like, how do you look for that, and what sustains you through such a difficult place to be?
I mean, I see other people. Some people really, they comes and amputated. They just, they totally lost the entire family in front of them, and you're living with those kind of people. So it kind of give you hope that there's some other people who also have really worse situation than you. But also, for me I was looking for safe and secure places. Safety was really number one.
Right.
Because, you don't want to, walk up and then there's a gun shooting here and there. So at least there's
Was there
no
a lot of
more
violence in the camp?
It's a more domestic violence, and
Hard place for women
It's
then.
a hard place for women, and also people are desperate,
Yes.
so they're kind of expressing themselves through violence.
Right.
So I don't take that violence as people are being really violent. When someone acting angry or anything, so we have to really also think maybe beyond that. It's kind of expressing that person. There's a way of expression. So I take it that way. But overall, it's really one of, unfortunate places to live. And I always advise my friends who sometime, thinking about life, and I don't really have enough, I don't have this, I don't have that. I just ask them, go to some of these refugee camp and volunteer for 1 week. You will definitely have life transformations when you come back, because you will
Puts a lot into perspective.
Yes,
It sure does.
you will compare and contrast, and you will say, "Wow."
Because we live in such a culture that focuses on our scarcity.
That's right.
Yes.
What we don't have.
When we live in abundance.
You know, how empty we
Right.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Right.
to be on the other side of that, and to have the message that you're giving right now is very powerful.
Zalah,
Yeah.
just thinking about getting out of Sudan, what had you gone through before you left? What happened to you in your own life? I know I've seen snippets from a video which is at the Human Rights Museum, I believe, in Winnipeg. that-
Yes,
of an
yes,
interview you
we
gave.
we
So
made
I
that
wonder
video.
if you can share with our listeners a little bit of what you suffered yourself.
I was captured, by the militias at that time, and then I was put in detention center, and just about to be transferred to military camp. And so, in fact, I was transferred to military camps, but also we had others rebel groups going on. the regions, and so we were accused to be part of those rebel groups at that time, and always the governments kind of see that if you're from certain ethnicity, it's sad to say that, but if you're from certain ethnicity in the country, then you're kind of automatically punished as
Right.
so luckily I was freed by some group. They were intended to attack the military camp. So basically they are enemies to each others. So I was fortunate to free myself from that, and then flee to other side of the country.
Now, when you were in a camp, and we were talking about this the other day, what did food look like in the camp? What did getting by every day look like in the camp? I mean, we worry about whether we're gonna. We actually stress about what we're going to pick to eat.
Pick to eat.
When you start to think about
Yes.
that business of putting things in perspective, perhaps you can share with people what it was like, and how long did you live in the camp in Ethiopia?
I lived from 2000 to almost 4 years, actually, from 2005 to 2010.
Yeah,
So almost 5 years.
5 years in the
5
camp.
years in the camp.
Now, what did food look like?
Food, there's a lot of pizza.
A lot of pizza, really? I would not have
That
thought
would have
that. Yeah, that's
surprised me.
surprising. All right.
It's
I think he jokes.
it's the we get our food assistance from WFP, World Food Program. It's an organization that funded by UN.
Yeah.
And it's basically at the end of the month, you just go and line up. You get your core ration.
Your rations.
Yes, like 15 kilogram of wheat.
Okay.
I mean, not wheat, but
Wheat.
Yes, WH.
Yes, that's right. Wheat. Yeah.
WHEAT.
I just can't imagine.
Sometimes
I
I
can't.
say-
Yeah, well, that's
I
the
say-
thing.
If I'm gonna get a
I'm
bag
trying
of
to
something, I
picture
want
lining up to get
for a bag of
a
wheat.
bucket of wheat.
And then what do you do with the wheat?
And it's actually very. I mean, because they bring a high protein wheat. I believe they also UN get it from Canada and Australia.
Canadian wheat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And some of them you can see on the.
This segment
back.
brought to you by the Canadian wheat producers.
No, it is true because they get donation from Australia and primarily Australia and Canada, I think.
And what would you
So
make with
you
that?
basically take those, to the either you can just sell it to local people,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can, if you wanna get tired of eating wheat every month,
Yeah.
you can change your food, or you can basically grind it and make. But people stay in group, like we used to.
to share the rations.
Yeah. So I mean, by yourself you can survive.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say 4, 5, 6 people, they stay together, and then they share. What do you have? I have this. And then people kind of based on also reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can bring oil.
Sort of a barter system.
Yeah, you can bring oil. You can bring that. It's a very, very passionate and warm, like a surviving together. That's kind of things.
What's it like when you're in a refugee camp for 5 years and you get the news that you're going to be going to Canada?
It was very exciting. It's really exciting. I had a news in 2009 that Canadian High Commissions accepted me to grant me a refugee asylum seeker in Canada. That was really very exciting because in that kind of circumstances, there's no hope.
Right.
You don't really think that you will ever get out of that place because there's no basically. I mean, it's just a very hard to think.
Sure.
And it was far to think that one day you can go to Canada or somewhere.
Well,
So,
in 5
yeah.
years, you start to
Yes,
wonder if you're ever
yeah,
going to get
yeah,
a call.
yeah.
When you thought, when
So-
you heard it was Canada, what went through your mind as far as how much you knew about Canada or where you'd be going or what?
It's
what
pretty cold.
thoughts
That's what
kinda-
I heard first.
It's very
thing.
cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, exactly.
And some of my friends, even they were changing their mind. Oh, I want to really go to U.S. Canada is pretty cold, kind of.
Okay.
But as cold as it's a very humanitarian countries. That's what I mean by cold. And of course, there's a lot of snow here, but it's kind of known for a long time that it's for passionate for humanitarians and helping refugees for a long time.
Right. Right.
So when I got the notification from UNISHIR that you were going there, so it was really exciting because I knew that there's an opportunity. There's endless opportunity in Canada. You can go to school, you can work, you can do whatever you want. You can just there's endless opportunity. That was kind of milestone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great. And then leading into that, of course, you took advantage of some of those opportunities when you got here and said, this is something I really want to do. And you have spent, as Kevin mentioned at the beginning of the show, a lot on your education, a lot of time in educating yourself. So share a little bit about what kind of drives you to continue that education, to continue to learn, to continue to embrace learning. What is it about that really excites you? Yeah.
That is another part of my life here. And when I came to the airport, they said you're going to London. So I didn't know London, Ontario. I was upset that I'm going to London, UK,
England?
because
London,
it's.
England, yeah.
I mean, taking a flight from Africa to Canada is about really long flight.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of. So it's you. I mean, that's another also challenge too, because as a newcomers, if you come to new countries, there's language barriers, there's a lot of things that you need to really learn and how to, integrate
It's a new life.
to
Yeah.
new life.
Yeah.
A new life comes with challenge too.
Yeah.
This is true though. So, but my decision was really, I made a solid decision that I really want to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to, upgrade my kind of ESL program,
Mm-hmm.
so just to learn a little bit of, and eventually
ESL is English as a
English
second
as
language.
as a second language,
Yeah.
which is really, it's a great
I'm
start.
going to do it next.
Why
Thank
not?
God.
People have wanted me to speak English for years.
So I made that decision of going to school, and I went to college and then university. So things are, education is always that's important thing.
You've done a lot of sociology, and now in the fall you're going to do this social justice and community engagement program. What motivates you to do that? Why that program, Zalah?
The reason, really, I was thinking that from the beginning just to study medicine or engineer. That's everybody who
Engineer.
to be an engineer.
We
or
have so many
something like that.
engineers.
So I made a decision to go to study social science,
Okay.
sociology. And it was a great program. It's basically given my past experiences, where I came from, and also, it's something really articulate to my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Social justice and community engagement. It is a program that I choose because it's have something to do, with social issues.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then I mean, social issue can be different, not a civil war things, but I mean there are a lot of things that people need to improve nowadays, and so I don't know. I found myself really kind of related to that program.
Mm-hmm.
My personal experiences, and then my experiences also was working with some volunteering with some NGOs here, kind of.
And
I
have you
found
found
this
an
interesting.
opportunity to really use some of what you've learned regarding social justice in your day-to-day life, and how does it play out every day based on what you've learned? And
Yes, I mean, learning is it's a long process. So you
Sure.
keep kind of continue learning every day, but it's there's I mean the tremendous amount of effort people already made it in this kind of
Right.
area of social justice and equalities, and I mean. But also our life, we're very dynamic. I mean, it's changeable every day.
Mhm.
There's some, even politics is changing every day, economic, social issues changing every day. It's a dynamic, and we don't live in an isolated world. It's connected now. We become more
Well,
interconnected.
we are all connected, yeah. And
So social injustice issue is not only, domestic and local issues now, more internationally and everywhere. So you see yourself, you're connected everywhere,
right.
and this is basically, and yeah. So that's what
Our friend
thanks.
Zalah, if you haven't heard, listeners, every now and then he goes into Barry White mode. He goes very low. So we have to remind him every now and then that you out there listening are not all settling in for the evening.
Drinking water. Just
You're drinking water. Okay.
That's right. That's
Listen, obviously a large part of the focus for us here on the Vickers Crossing is around faith in the public square, where those things interact. You're a Muslim man yourself, so you are engaged in your faith in your own way. But obviously you know that it was faith communities that brought you here. I wonder if you could share a little bit about how you think people of faith can have an impact on the body politic, on public policy, public action, either for the good or for the bad. But I'd be curious to know your own thoughts about how faith communities can interact with the public discourse.
churches and mosques and others, religious faiths. They're social institutions, and they're social institutions. They have impact at the macro level, at the bigger pictures. Involving in different charities and advising also government to take some decisions towards certain issues, just all kind of issues at the macro level, but also at the micro level, which is the smaller. There's immediate impact to individuals. So churches and mosques, they have really it's a way people have warm support, and then support each others and have real conversations about their personal struggle, challenge. This is where the priests and imam, they really play a huge role.
Because there's that one-on-one connection
One-on-one
often,
connection.
isn't there?
It's not only even therapeutic, but it's also an intimate relation that transform individual and make really positively impact individual, which is, it's very, very, we need it these days, that, era of people really have a little conversations or communication to each other. So this is where the church and mosque and other religious institutions have an impact on individuals. And I came through, St. Aidan's. It's through a program it's called BVR, Blended Visa Office Refer.
Okay.
I was fortunate to have that kind of spot. And when I arrived, I had a really good relation. In fact, still, most of the people that I met the first time here, still they're really true friends. And it's offered me personal like support from that point. But if we talk generally about these religious institutions in general are needed more than ever. Right now, every day there's something new happen part of the world. We had a lot of issue. Not only you can talk from gay and lesbians community to ethnic minorities to people with disabilities and all kind of social sectors. These are the real issues, and I think church and mosque, they play a role here and kind of force government to do some improvement somewhere in these areas. And I
I
think that's
find that
a-
interesting too, because you mentioned the macro level,
Yeah.
of which churches and mosques and
Right.
synagogues and all faith
Mhm.
communities can be a part of by using their voice, but it does start oftentimes at the grassroots level,
Right,
which
right.
is that micro, that one-on-one conversations
Yeah.
that people are having on the street, which is really what our podcast
This
is
is
trying to
entirely
do.
what
But
it's
yeah,
about.
Yeah.
that's a really good
If
point
you
to make.
consider on a micro level what faith communities here, like I said, the previous Bishop Cronin and the folks at St. Aidan's, what on a micro level they were able to offer to you,
Right.
people who shall remain nameless because they're in the witness protection program. But that's a micro thing.
Right,
But on a
yeah.
macro level, when our communities, like when your community comes out tonight, our community comes out and we gather with the Muslim community and the Jewish community
Right.
and the Buddhist community, the Sri Lankan community of Christians. When we do that, it's at a macro level that we're making a statement. It's our own act of resistance in a way.
Yeah.
We're saying we resist the old world order, we resist the empire thinking, we resist all this that diminishes and puts down in order to uphold that which is really life-giving and wholesome. And so where there's injustice, it really, if we live true to the tenets of our faith, and that's true. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or if you're Jewish or Christian. The major tenets of our faith are around peace, justice, and goodness. So
And we often get overwhelmed by the enormity of what's going on in the world and at that macro level.
Yes.
But that's where it's important to pull it back to the micro
micro
level and say, we got to recognize the macro,
Our little
but we
bits
got to
of
go
good.
one-on-one.
Right,
And like
right.
us today, and like Zalah's saying, to go one-on-one and say, we both agree that the LGBTQ community needs to have a voice here, and that's a social justice issue.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do to
Right.
talk about
Right.
that with each other, and then let that extend into other conversations with others, or whatever that justice issue may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean these things that it can be. I mean, it just can happen spontaneously. Just make it very simple. I mean, if we really truly care about about our life and others' life, it just it doesn't have to be formal. You have to plan and all those stuff. Just spontaneously, your
Right.
neighbor.
Yeah.
You start from your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a Muslim neighbor, you have Jewish neighbors, and you have someone, start from neighbors. Just something very small, spontaneous,
Yep.
and this is where the human relations start to build, and then build the confidence, and then eventually you have social cohesions, and then you have stronger social trust.
I think that what
People
you're
trust
talking
each
about
other, so
really
it's
is
kind of-
about removing ignorance.
Right.
And, I think that, at least on my own faith journey, every opportunity I've had to have my own preconceived notions of people destroyed has been a good moment. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Zalah, was your work with the Diocese of Huron Refugee Resettlement
I've heard
Committee.
of that place. What did you call it?
The Diocese of Huron?
Diocese of Huron. Is that something?
Yes. That's
is-
a little place in which we live and work and have our being.
Oh,
Yes.
is that? Oh, so that's our diocese.
That's
Okay,
our
okay,
diocese.
good.
Yes. Not
I'm
the
being
diocese,
facetious.
our diocese.
Our diocese of Huron.
Of Huron. So our diocese has a refugee resettlement committee of which you're a part of. Can you tell us a little bit about perhaps what that committee does and what you do to support it and take part in it?
This is it's really good. Refugee committees are doing incredible work in terms of sponsoring, because every year's refugee committees take numbers of applications from sponsoring refugees from overseas.
Okay.
We had a large number of applicants in 2015, and then that's the one we had an influx of
Syrian refugees.
Yeah, that was a
in
big
London here.
lot of
Yeah,
churches involved
and
in that.
we are not only taking the application and then submitting to the government, but also we follow step by step when the person arrive here. Make sure that person get OHIP card, or get the library card, or connected to the community, to these kind of things. So through our monitoring process that we have in place, and we also kind of have a connection with some local settlement agencies here, like Cross Cultural Learning Center, CCLC.
Right.
We often go and ask them, hey, can we have these done? Can we have these? So there are really, I mean, a lot of activities we do, but primarily sponsorship, like application, application process kind of. That's
Have you had an opportunity to meet one-on-one with some of the newer refugees that are coming over to share your story and hear from them as well? Do you get that opportunity at all?
Yes, I often tells people that, you know, I mean the newcomers, because sometimes we all when we come here in Canada, we have a high expectation. We set kind of high expectations.
Yes.
You want to get a job right away. You want to get car, everything just quicker. You know, and integration is a process, and it will take time, and it has, you know, has to just be patient. So I share my story that, you know, when I came, I have to go to work in the factories, and in fact still I do, and you know, kind of and go to school and do this. So take your time, and then don't get frustrated, because, you know, new places there's challenges always, but and then be hopeful, kind of like really advising that way. And I see that through my work at the diocese. I see some people are struggle, but I mean this can be overcome. Some people, if you're patient a little bit.
If I can say, I mean, Zalah, you're not painting a full picture because Zalah does a lot. I mean, it needs to be noted that this is a guy who just talked to us here over the last little bit about spending 5 years in a camp in Ethiopia that was a kilometer square with 7,000 people, having escaped, been captured in Sudan, Darfur. This is a man who's come here and worked full-time in factories, as he said, and continues to work in a factory while he's done 3 different programs in university and now is beginning his master's. And this is a man who, once he's, even though he's done all that, has decided that he will volunteer with an Anglican Christian organization, which is helping resettle others like him. He's a man of faith. He's a Muslim man, but he comes, Zalah, and I mean, the amount of paperwork that he does in these resettlement programs is tremendous. And then you're right that once they come here, I have watched, because we've done some resettling, and to see what Zalah has been able to provide in terms of hope for people who come, when they, because you know what it was like when you came here, how difficult it was, Zalah. And so for those people who come and feel such a desperation, and they see this guy working full time, going to school, doing his thing, they're like, wow, you know, and he really does provide a great sense of hope, a great sense of opportunity for people. I think when people see Zalah, they're inspired. And every time I hear some right-wing wingnut go off about, you know, refugees and how they come here and all they do is drain on society, one of the first people that comes to mind is Zalah. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you understand that if you actually work with the refugee community, and Zalah can testify to this as well, they come and they give more to this country than they ever take from it. And Zalah is an incredible testimony to that. And we're just, as a faith community, he talks about what the community has done for him. He was settled here before I came to St. Aidan's, and I got to know him after I came here 7 years ago. My life is enriched and better because I know Zalah. I'm a better person because of Zalah. So his contribution is really quite great. So he's a humble guy. He mumbles a bit sometimes, and he gets a little low in the, because he doesn't like to blow his own horn. But I can blow it for him and just say that this is a man for whom we should all be grateful, and it's a person that we're highly grateful for in our community.
Yeah, and I know Zalah by sharing your story here on the Vickers Crossing and getting that story out to not only people in our area, but as crazy as this sounds, people who listen to this in different parts of the world.
That's right.
That are also there are a lot of countries that are
we don't know, but someone in Sudan is listening,
bringing in refugees and going through some of the things we are. So yeah, to be a beacon of hope like that and to share your story is can be very transformative to people. So we want to thank you for sharing it and sharing and bringing it to us to share with others.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and share this story. And thanks.
If you need to be in touch with Zalah, you can get in touch with us, depending on what you want him for. I'll text your number over to him very quickly if it's for the right purposes.
We can do that.
But he's a great guy who you should all meet. I hope those of you in the London area If you have a chance to meet Zalah, you should meet him. He's a
Good.
good guy.
Well, it's good to meet you. I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
could come.
Thank you.
I'm glad you
Thanks.
could come. Kevin, let's tell people how to get a hold of us if they want to find out more about Zalah or Ian.
Yeah, like
or,
you can
or
email
you,
right,
or me.
or or what's happening next. We're doing another recording very soon for next week's podcast with Helen Butlin, who is a pastoral care provider, a spiritual counselor. She has completed a PhD in the area of spiritual care for those with cancer, and has some incredible writing that she's going to share with us on our next podcast. You can find us on all the places where you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm happy to say we've now been added to Google Play, as well as iTunes and Buzzsprout, YouTube, SoundCloud. All of those places are places where you can find us. Please email us your comments, your concerns, your anger at me. It won't be at Rob. vicarscrossing@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at Vickers Crossing, Facebook us at the Vickers Crossing, send up a smoke signal, send out a homing pigeon, call Ian at home, whatever you need to do to get a hold of us, just do what you got to do.
519.
Ian's number is 8675309.
Jenny.
Wow.
Well, that's Jenny.
Jenny's number.
Jenny's number.
Good. Well, we're glad you could drop by and peek into the Vickers Crossing again for another week, everybody. Thanks for being here. And until we get together again, on behalf of our friend Zalah and on behalf of producer Ian and Kevin George, my name is Rob Henderson. And remember to always look both ways.
Before you cross that street.
Thank you for listening. Our hosts are Kevin George and Rob Henderson. Our producer and composer is myself, Ian, with original artwork done by Catherine Olenek. If you have any questions or want to know where to find us, tweet us at Vickers Crossing or find us on Facebook at The Vickers Crossing. If you have any other questions about anything heard on this podcast, leave us a comment or look in the description to find out more. Thanks.